The New Dawn are a Loyalist successor chapter created during an unknown founding sometime in the late M37 from the proud lineage of the heroic and venerable Blood Angels. Like many of their fellow chapters of the Blood, the New Dawn have a predilection for close combat and shock assault tactics. The blood of Sanguinius burns like fire in their veins, and the New Dawn have garnered a reputation as being savage and bloodthirsty in nature. As they are greatly affected by the twin genetic flaws inherent in their gene seed, instead of fearing it, the New Dawn embraces their flaws as blessings from the Red Angel. The chapter considers themselves noble berserkers, but unlike their genetic forebearers, they are not afraid to embrace their genetic heritage, therefore they do not attempt to quash these urges in the heat of battle. Instead, they harness these gifts and utilize them to their fullest effects, with helps to increase their strength and savagery as they unleash extreme violence upon their foes, rendering them limb from limb in a hail of blood and gore. Yet, despite this view, the chapter still values the lives of civilians of the Imperium and other human cultures in general, for to cause undue harm or suffering to the innocent that they have sworn to defend is considered one of the chapter's highest crimes. The New Dawn are a vaunted successor chapter created from the lineage of the angelic Primarch Sanguinius. Though their exact founding is unrecorded, extant records indicate that they were created sometime in the latter centuries of M37. This makes them a likely candidate for being a part of the 23rd founding, the so-called Sentinel founding. Imperial scholars believe that the 23rd founding was one of a series of linked foundings that took place during this tumultuous period in Imperial history, and that they were intended to repair the power and reach of the Adeptus Astartes that had suffered considerable losses in the preceding millennia. According to the Requiem Maleficent of Saint Kybra, no fewer than 57 Space Marine chapters had been destroyed, turned renegade or declared lost in the warp during this troubled period. The era had been marked by such calamities as the Age of Apostasy, the disastrous 21st Cursed Founding, the attacks of the Forces of Chaos, and a rampage of orcs almost unchecked along the Imperium of Man's frontiers. The New Dawn was one of several chapters created to pursue perpetual crusades against the Emperor's foes. In particular, this chapter was founded as a standing force to defend the fringes of Imperial space from unknown Zenith threats that hailed from the Ghoul Stars. Like most chapters created during this era, the New Dawn are a restless chapter, possessed with a strong Crusader zeal. As a fleet-based chapter, almost as soon as they were created, the New Dawn has continuously plunged themselves headlong into the battlefields across the width and breadth of the known galaxy. They have continued this perpetual crusade for over 4 millennia and have never stopped fighting. The chapter's homeworld is known as Hystroctium 4, a death world located near the Ghoul Stars. This planet is a hot and desolate world with 2 small polar freshwater oceans. This world was inhabited by humanity in the Dark Age of technology for its rich mineral wealth in the western mountain ranges. Eventually, it was lost to humanity due to the turbulent warp storms that were building at the height of the fall of the Eldari Empire, and rediscovered by mere chance by the then fleet-based New Dawn chapter, when their stricken capital ship exited the warp, blind after the Battle of Eleanor. This newly discovered world now replaces the Shrine World of Eleanor with several shrine cities along the oceans, as well as serving as the chapter homeworld of the Dawn. This world also hosts a large number of huge and lethal creatures, not least of which is a healthy population of Orkoid tribes. This is a fact that the New Dawn chapter uses to harden potential aspirants, which helps to thin out the greenskins often, but never completely eliminates the problem. The New Dawn has made their chapter monastery out of the wreckage of their capital ship, the Dawnolith, and thought they have kept the name of the crashed ship. It now serves as a prominent fortress overseeing the central dunes of the planet, well out of the way of the local populace. However, underground passages give the New Dawn quick access to the polar shrine cities, and the forces of the Adeptus Sororitas access to the fortress monastery. Never again shall a world of faith such as Eleanor fall under the Dawn's watch. The culture of the Dawn is drawn from an ancient interpretation of the Imperial Creed. Their belief stems from the idea that the Emperor of Man is kind of a living god and his sons demigods. Being descended from the winged Primarch Sanguinius, the Dawn believed themselves to be literal angels of the Emperor and the servants of mankind. Though also of Skaldic faith, they believe strongly that the red thirst of their Primarch is a gift and wield it as a weapon in war. They also show a great sorrowful reverence for those who fall to the Black Rage. The New Dawn are a divergent chapter who only moderately follows the dictates of the Codex Astartes, if not to the letter, at least in spirit. The chapter does not send their neophytes into the scout squads that primarily make up the 10th Company, as other more codex-oriented chapters do. Instead, they opt to train their recruits within their chapter's fortress ministry on Instructium 4 as their implants take hold. Once they have successfully accepted their implants, the chapter then releases the newly created Adeptus Astartes directly into their chapter's 10th Assault Company, the Death Corps. They believe that the hot-headed youths must learn to harness and control the red thirst in the relative safety of close combat. Once they have mastered their rage in the crucible of close combat, they are promoted to the 8th Devastator Company, where they will then learn to utilize and maintain the heavier weapons they might need in more specialized operations and function as support troops to the main bulk of an assault. Should the battle brother not wish to relinquish his wings or feels he needs more time to hone his craft, he is sent instead to the 9th Assault Company. If they serve well in the role of Devastator, they might be promoted to serve in one of the many battle companies where they can select their roles as veteran assault marines or continue performing their role as heavy weapon specialists while they hone their leadership skills and eventually be raised to the position of a tactical marine. After many years of service in numerous battle companies, a battle brother might then be asked if he wishes to join the vaunted 1st Company. If he agrees, he must first test himself in the 2nd Scout Company for a while, serving as the eyes and ears for the rest of the chapter and ensuring the larger overall operation has the correct intel so that the chapter might fight with the greatest efficiency. Notable campaigns: The Battle of Eleanor, 999 M39 to 001 M40. The Battle of Eleanor took place on the Shrine World of Eleanor, a bastion of Imperial faith serving the fringe worlds of the Imperium. The world was attacked by a huge warband of the traitorous battle sister of the Order of Our Martyred Lady, Miriel Sabathiel, and a fleet of hired Chaos forces. A suborder from the Order of Our Martyred Lady had been ambushed by a sizable contingent of Chaos forces, including endless streams of cultists, corrupted sisters, a sizable contingent of Chaos Space Marines dedicated to Slaanesh and demons, which had launched a surprise attack of a small convent of Scythes left to defend the world. Being the nearest possible source of relief, Chapter Master Ergo Marches responded personally with his elite 1st Company, the Bloody 3rd and 6th Companies, and brought all the might of his capital ship, the Dawnolith, to respond. Though the Dawnolith was not the largest nor the most destructive ships in his fleet, it was the most advanced, a latest design that combined the speed and agility of a light cruiser with the firepower of a much larger ship. Unfortunately, the information of the situation was incorrect. Where the reports had indicated that there was only a single Chaos ship in orbit, the Chaos champion Miriel Sabathiel had hidden the rest of her fleet behind the planet's sun, where the solar flares and background radiation would hide her ships from detection. This allowed her to send huge numbers of those loyal to her to engage the Marines planetside, while her larger fleet outflanked the Dawnolith. On the planet's surface, the New Dawn's assault had bogged down due to the sheer volume of cultists blunting their attack. Although outgunned in space, the Chapter Master was forced to order the withdrawal and extraction of the remaining Adeptus Sororitas and the priceless relics and artifacts they defended. But by doing so, Lord Ergo Marches was left with but one course of action, a choice that turned his stomach: the death of the world and everything on it. Reluctantly, he ordered exterminatus of the doomed planet, then ordered the retreat back into the warp, but not before his ship was severely damaged by the fleet of the Sister Superior of Slaanesh. Though Marches was able to escape their clutches, his ship trailed wreckage across the warp, the damage causing the Geller fields to flicker and die several times during the trip, the worst of which occurred 3 months into the journey back to his fleet. This time the psychic backlash from the exposure to raw warp stuff killed his remaining navigators and much of his support staff, forcing him to drop out of warp and back into real space right then and there. Worse still, where the ship entered real space, it entered within the gravity well of the lost world of Istroctium 4. Here, Ergo evacuated all he could from the ship and had the vessel put on automatic pilot so that it would fall into the soft dunes near the planet's equator, which kept the ship largely intact, but permanently grounded. The Dawn would later convert the ruin of this mighty vessel into the chapter's fortress ministry and the primary shrine on the planet. The Scouring of Istroctium 4, unknown date M41. The many years after the New Dawn settled upon the desert world and converted the bones of their capital ship into their chapter's fortress ministry, a great orc war boss set down to the planet and united the planet's disparate tribes, augmenting them with his own forces and set to burning and pillaging the world. The Dawn, however, did not take kindly to the rape of their new homeworld and slammed into the tribes with the fury and speed they so favored. It was a brutal and bloody affair, but the Dawn took on the orcs and defeated them, utilizing the same savagery common in orc culture. However, there was a huge cost to this, as the Master of the Dawn engaged Deathdread Khan in single combat and was crushed near to death, even though he wore formidable Terminator armor. This is how he became what he is today. G899, the Ghoul Stars, 997 M41. A splinter of the Hive Fleet of the Tyranid menace from the Eastern Fringe appeared, disoriented and twisted by its passage through the Ghoul Stars, and landed upon one of the worlds monitored by the Dawn. Serving faithfully to their duties as a sentinel force, the chapter stood vanguard over the desolate world. However, the favored tactics of the New Dawn could not break a foe such as the Tyranids. The conflict quickly escalated into a grueling war of attrition, with heavy losses suffered by most of the veteran elements of the Death Corps Assault Company and other line officers of Brother Captain Ishara's choice, and nearly the entirety of the Bloody Third Devastator Company. Led by Brother Captain Bolov, who had overall command, the Bloody Third, so called for their stubborn resolve and sheer refusal to give ground even in the face of insurmountable odds, formed the bulwark of the operation. The Third would dig in and form the anvil, where the Eighth would sweep in from behind and serve as the hammer. 2 Stormraven gunships and a Thunderhawk would provide close air support. However, even with such a force, the New Dawn knew that this operation was tantamount to suicide. Still, they held the line for 3 months, as their forces ground down the never-ending tide of the Tyranids. Unfortunately, by the time support came to 8th, the chapter's hand-picked troops had all been killed, save for Ishara himself, whom was facing a Hive Tyrant in single combat. The Third had fared little better, thinned to mere squads by the time they were extracted. Ultimately, what the Dawn bought the Imperium was much-needed time and experience fighting such a relentless foe. The New Dawn utilizes the Red Thirst as an effective weapon to destroy their enemies in brutal, close-quarters combat engagements, either entering the fray by Stormraven gunships, Thunderhawks or drop pods, and assaulting the enemy's position or command structure with such speed, ferocity, and with so little quarter given that the enemy combatants have no hope of mounting any defense. As such, the New Dawn specializes in assault troops with heavily modified armor designed for speed and maneuverability. However, what the enemy often does not see is the early insertion of the chapter's elite scout forces that are sent to report to the New Dawn's command in order to deploy their assault forces in the most effective manner possible. The elite 2nd Scout Company is also tasked with securing mission-critical objectives like deploying teleport homers for the Terminator armored veterans of the elite 1st Company to launch a teleport assault, as well as sabotaging vital enemy equipment. Like their fellow Scions of Sanguinius chapters, the New Dawn are greatly affected by the twin genetic flaw of their Primox lineage, and therefore suffer from both the ravages of the Red Thirst and the Black Rage. However, unlike many of their fellow Blood Angels successor chapters, the Red Dawn do not fear these flaws and instead embrace them. By unleashing their calculated savagery upon their foes, the chapter has somehow managed to master a portion of control over these twin curses. Unique to the Red Dawn, the chapter also shows some major genetic drift from their genetic forebearers. They alone, amongst the scions of Sanguinius, have seemed to have lost the use of their Betches gland, the organ that transforms an Astartes saliva into a corrosive, blinding acid when consciously triggered. This normally allows a space marine to blind, wound, or kill an enemy outright, as well as aid them in the digestion of unusually difficult or impossible items. Over several millennia, this organ has somehow atrophied over time and is no longer viable, having ceased to function entirely. Being a much younger chapter, the New Dawn views the Emperor of Mankind as a living god and shares strong ties with the ecclesiarchy, especially the Sisters of Battle, as they are strong believers in the tenets of the imperial cult and are very religious. They also hold the belief that they are the guardians of humanity and still hold out hope of fulfilling the Emperor's dream of a safe, secure and prosperous Imperium, free from the shackles of false gods. The chapter fights for the day when the Imperium may lay down its arms and hail a new golden age of humanity, and no matter how far away that goal seems, the New Dawn will never give up hope.